Alright, hi you guys. My name is Brianna Cabarcas and I'll be doing standardized testing. Okay, so most of us are juniors in here, so if you guys remember, can anyone remember their first standardized test in 5th grade? By a show of hands, anyone remember that first day they took their test? I remember mine. I was freaking out. I had no idea what was going on. Everything was ridiculous. I was like, oh my God, we have to test, and if I don't pass, I'm gonna be in 5th grade and everyone's gonna leave me. It was really scary for me. So basically, standardized tests, is this working? Okay. Standardized tests was originally made for high school boys, and they were going to do military testing. They were testing high school boys to see if they could be military officers. This was around the Great Space Race and everything you guys know that we had with the Soviet Union to see who can get to the moon first. After they did the testing, they were like, hey, this is a really good thing. We can check students, we can see their progress, let's use it on other high school students. So that's how it started in the high school program. After that, they moved on to elementary school students, and they created the test to see if they could move on to the next grade. The test started becoming a really big deal. They started using it to see if teachers were testing students correctly, if students were picking up on the information, as well as if teachers and administrators were doing their job correctly. Okay, so then our president during the time was George W. Bush, and they made a No Child Left Behind Act in 2002. Well, it was in 2001, but they didn't pass it until 2002. And basically what it is a regulation. The schools don't necessarily have to comply with it, but it is important if they want government funding to fund their school. So what it is each state creates a standard. The standards are not the same. The states can come up with whatever standard they like. It could be passing as a 45, it could be passing as a 75. You guys know how our standards change all the time. And once the state reaches this standard, they're allowed money. They're given money from the government to fund their schools. However, this started stressing a lot of administrators out. This stresses students, teachers, schools. Every day schools are being shut down. For instance, HISD is constantly in the news. Their high schools are being shut down left and right because their students aren't passing these standards. So the standardized tests keep changing. If you guys know, we had TOS, we have TAX, and now we have STAR. My class graduation, we're the guinea pigs. We got the first STAR test. Not fun at all, completely different from our tax test. By a show of hands, when you took your tax test, who was done before lunchtime? Because I was always done. I slept the whole day. And now we're still given 4 hours for these tests, and these tests, they're different. However, they're not making any of the results. The results are still coming back the same. They're still the same scores, the same students are taking these tests, and the tests aren't being changed. So one of the major things that's happening now is there's a lot of cheating scandals going on in huge states like New York, Washington, D.C., Wyoming had some, where students are being administered fake tests, or the administrators are buying tests from older years so that their students will pass. No longer is it about teaching the students to the test, it's about, okay, what can we do to make sure that we're still receiving this money from the government? Now, not all school districts are like this, and I'm not saying that everyone has underlying meanings. However, it's become to the point to where standardized testing is a way for the schools to get checks. So one of the biggest scandals was in New York, where they had this school that was having students unenroll from the school, and they were dropping out of school completely under unanimous things. No one knew what was going on, and then after testing was done, they came back. If you look at this graph right here, when students started dropping out, testing scores started getting higher. So then it became, okay, so students were being targeted to leave the school so that they could get the checks from the school. They were being brought back in, but after testing was done. So it's getting to the point to where teachers aren't even teaching anymore. It's becoming, oh my God, my job is on the line. What can I do to make sure these kids don't show up for this test? What can I do to make sure these kids just aren't included in my data? So it says teaching is a highly stressful occupation. With the standardized testing being held at such a high rate, it's very stressful. Teachers are being taken out of classrooms to go to preps to make sure they know how to teach their students the tests. The education room, our classrooms are no longer, we're going to learn this because it might help you further this, further that. Yes, that is what it's originally for, but at the end of the day, it's still, but you need to know this for your tests. You need to know this. This is going to be on your test. And things that aren't on our test that the state feels, oh, well, we don't really need to test on that, are things that we usually skip over in the classrooms. So if you look at these graphs up here, it says our education system, how people feel everything is preparing us for. So preparing students for college, yes, everyone's like, oh, well, I send my child to school so that they can go to college and get a career. That's what I'm sending them for, that's what it needs to do. Sending students for work. Students, we have the STEM testing, we have the different classes that have everything at the SANJAG, welding, hair, cosmetics, all of that stuff. And then it says the student achievement, class and homework. Test is only 28%. Our test should not define how our skills and our base levels. It should not tell us what we can or cannot do. Yeah. So I came up with the idea that maybe we should terminate the No Child Left Behind Act. The No Child Left Behind Act is making it to where testing equals money. Students show up to school, they pass their test, the school gets money. Why should it be that way? Testing should show us, oh, well, maybe the children aren't picking up on this subject very well. We should go back and make sure that we teach them this part. Testing should be a way for us to make sure that we know our basic skills so that when we do graduate or we go to get a job or anything like that and start our careers, we should be able to communicate and use those skills that we learned in high school to do what we got to do. So I say that, and not completely get rid of standardized testing, but there should only be 2 standardized tests. There should be one the first semester, about a month before we get out of school, for teachers to say, hey, you know, my kids aren't doing so well on this section of the math. Let me go back and reteach this so that when they go to the next semester, they understand what they're doing. And then again, at the second semester, again, a month before we get out of school, so that we know what we need to work on when we're out of school and we move on to the next grade. Hey, you know, I wasn't really good at my English section. Let me go over that again. So I came up with an observational study. And this observational study is a year-long program, and it will be several high school students from each state to represent each state. And they will be put in this year-long study where they take several different standardized tests. After these tests are taken, then they will have questions like, how did you feel the test questions were worded? How did you feel about the test? Was the information great? Did you feel like it was representing what you learned in school? Now, of course, it's going to be hard because I do not like taking tests. You can't pay me enough to take a test for a year long. It's ridiculous. It seems like an impossible idea, not including the funding and the time that it will take for these tests. However, I said we come up with an incentive and we say, well, we'll give you a full ride scholarship to any college of your choosing. So I was like, okay, well, you know, you pay for my college and all I have to do is take a couple of tests. That's fine. Tests are easy for me. Now, of course, you'll have people against these things, like schools that aren't affected by the No Child Left Behind Act. Schools whose kids are passing and there's no cheating scandals, everything's great, the school has funds to teach your students, none of the teachers are being fired. Why put so much time and effort into something that's not affecting anyone? Why waste our time when our students are doing what they need to do to get through, which is how people would feel about it. As well as for my year-long study, again, students don't like taking tests. Tests are not fun for anyone. As well as if you offer people money, they may just be in it for the money, which may seem bad, but for the study to be successful, we'd have to have a wide range of people, whether they actually want to take the test or whether they just want the money. Either way, the more people we have participate, the easier it'll be to design the test for everyone. So if you look at this graph up here, it says to identify areas where students need extra help. So everyone agrees with that. Tests should be where we need extra help. It should pinpoint things that we're not so great on. And then it says to improve teaching skills. Teachers should be able to identify, okay, well maybe the way I'm teaching this lesson isn't very successful. Let me go back and try a different method to see if the students understand it then. But as you get lower down the graph, it says to rank or rate schools, to determine the level of funding, or even to decide jobs for students. People start to disagree. What I make on my STAR test or what I make on my SAT should not define me as a number. I'm not a number. We're not numbers. Our tests should not be numbers. We are people who have different skills. Whether or not you can show that on paper should not decide whether or not you get a job, whether or not your school is doing the right deal, whether or not our teachers are teaching us in the classrooms. So this little clip here says we trained our entire school career for that and no one's hired standardized testers. By a show of hands, has anyone already been to their first job interview? Anybody? No? Jobs, anybody? Yeah? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, but when filling out the application, it's really easy. You make yourself really good on paper. Paper looks great. You have all these achievements from school. You have references. But then you go in for the interview and you get nervous. You have to shake people's hands, you have to start talking. I myself, I'm up here presenting and I'm completely terrified. I'm very nervous. My test, if you say, Brianna, go take a 75 question test in 30 minutes. Great, I'm good. What is it, math, science, English? Let's go, I'm ready. Not that I enjoy taking the test, but I know I can do it. But if you tell me, Brianna, get on stage and present in front of everybody, I am completely terrified, and I feel like you're all looking at me. But, but you see, tests aren't helping us with our social skills. We're the future leaders of our nation. We have to build relationships with countries. We have to keep ourselves out of war. We have all these things that people are looking forward for us to take over as we get older and older. And if we can't have basic social skills, then we can't do that. So having us spend over 30 days of testing in our classrooms is not helping us build the skills we need to go into society. So my final thing that I'm going to leave you guys with is talk to your parents. As high school students, we have no power to do anything. Our parents are our voters. They pay taxes. As we get older, we'll become parents and we'll have kids in the educational system. And I, for one, don't want to send my child somewhere where they're not going to learn how to better themselves and get themselves prepared for their future. If I'm sending my child to a school, I would like them to learn things that are going to help build them, build their character, their social skills, so that they may go into the world and be successful. So not only are tests are great things to do when you need to know what skills you need to work on. They do not define what we do and who we are. So spending ample amount of time learning only what we need to know for our standards to be met, for our schools to get money, for our schools to continue to go, it's not the right way to do it. Our test should be for us to learn our basic skills and for us to better ourselves and go into the community and do great things. So yeah, talk to your parents. The reason standardized testing is not seen as such a big issue is because no one feels, oh, well, we're going to have to take the test. We have to take the test anyways. My child has to take the test. We have no choice. We have choices. We are the people. We speak to the government, and the government makes changes by what we want. We have all these other things in the media that are being changed because that's what we want. So if we get everyone together and we say, you know, standardized testing, this really isn't working for my child. School is supposed to be a place where we learn to build our skills, like I said before. If we come to school and we're not interested in school at all because, oh, the test is too easy or, oh, the test is too hard, then we need to get together and change it. While I was doing my research, Obama himself said that teachers should not be teaching to test, that they shouldn't spend so much time on testing. Well, then let's do something about it. Let's get together and let's talk about it. Let's go to Congress and let's start something. Let's get it fixed. So yes, that was my presentation on standardized testing. You guys have a nice day.